Welcome, dear students, to our history class of Standard 10th. Today we will continue with Chapter 4, History of Indian Arts. We have discussed about the art of painting, which form a part of visual arts in our previous video. Today we will learn about the art of sculpting. The art of sculpting is a visual art. Sculpture was the favored medium of artistic expression on the Indian subcontinent. Indian buildings were profusely adorned with it and indeed are often inseparable from it. Sculptures are a three-dimensional art form given shape and brought to life by various materials and many different techniques. Rock sculptures are made of carving, metal sculptures are made with the help of molds, and clay sculptures are formed directly either with hands or by using molds. One of the world's largest rock-cut temples from the past, the Kailasa Temple, is believed to be the largest monolithic structure in the world. What happens when a powerful ruler adopts a new religion that contradicts the life into which he was born? What happens when this change occurs during the height of his rule, when things are pretty much going his way? How is that information conveyed over a large geographical region with thousands of inhabitants? King Ashoka, who many believed was an early convert to Buddhism, decided to solve these problems by erecting pillars that rose some 50 feet into the sky. One of Ashoka's first artistic programs was to erect the pillars that are now scattered throughout what was the Mauryan Empire. The pillars vary from 50 to 50 feet in height. They are cut from two different types of stones, one for the shaft and another for the capital. The shaft was almost cut from a single piece of stone. The national emblem of India and a mark of Emperor Ashoka's visit to Sarnath, the Ashoka pillar, crafted out of stone, is an impressive structure with four Asiatic lions standing back to back on an elaborate base that includes other animals. A graphic representation of it was adopted as the official emblem of India in 1950. Folk styles of sculptural art. Tracing the history of sculptures from ancient times, one can find that sculptures can act as a good basis for recreating and understanding a past. The tradition of Indian sculpture extends from the Indus Valley civilization of 2500 to 1800 BCE, during which time small terracotta figurines were produced. The man represented here was a priest king owing to the adornments carved on him. In Harappa, a terracotta figure of Mother Goddess was found which represented earth and was intimately connected with the origin. Even some Vedic text gave reverence to the Mother Goddess. In course of time, every village came to have its own separate goddess and the images of clay and terracotta increased. This gives us information about the structure of society and their customs and practices. Clay images that are generally used for worship are generally referred to as Mrinmaya or Mritika Pratima. So, the custom of making clay images for rituals has been prevalent in India since Harappan times, continues till today in many regions like Bengal, Bihar, Gujarat, Rajasthan, etc. Lord Ganesha, among the various powerful Hindu gods, is said to be the god of prosperity and wealth. Different types of Lord Ganesha idols have different connotations and different effects in one's life. In total, there are 32 different types of representations of Lord Ganesha. People from various parts of Maharashtra have settled in Pune and have brought along their traditions and rituals for worshipping Gauri. The way the goddess is bedecked or what is offered as Naivedya varies from communities across the state. Pola is a festival celebrated widely during monsoon season by farmers of Maharashtra and Chhattisgarh. The farmers show their gratitude to their bulls for helping them. They worship all the bulls. Those who do not have bulls bring their idols and worship them at home. Virgals or Virgala, known as martyr stones, were erected between the 5th and 13th centuries AD under the Yadava and Shilahara dynasties. These were built either by the families or local villagers in memory of slain unsung soldiers. An amphora is a type of container with a pointed bottom and characteristic shape and size, which fit tightly against each other in storage rooms and packages, tied together with rope and delivered by land or sea. The size and shape have been determined from at least as early as the Neolithic period. Amphoras were sometimes used as grave markers or as containers for funerals or human remains. Classical styles of sculptural art. The beginning of stone sculpture in India goes back to a very remote age. There are small seals of intricate workmanship and of great artistic merit, astonishing examples of the artistic skill of the sculptures. The bronze dancing girl of the same period discovered at Mohenjo-daro is perhaps the greatest surviving achievement of the metalwork of the Harappan age. The physical appearance of the pillars underscores the Buddhist doctrine. Most of the pillars were topped by sculptures of animals. Each pillar is also topped by an inverted lotus flower, which is the most pervasive symbol of Buddhism. This flower and the animal that surmount it form the capital, the topmost part of a column. Great Stupa, the most noteworthy of the structures at the historic site of Sanchi in Madhya Pradesh, India. It is one of the oldest Buddhist monuments in the country and the largest stupa at the site. The Great Stupa was originally built in the 3rd century BCE by the Mauryan Empire Emperor Ashoka and is believed to house ashes of Buddha. The simple structure was damaged at some point during the 2nd century BCE. It was later repaired and enlarged and elements were added. It reached its final form in the 1st century BCE. Bharut sculpture, early Indian sculpture of the Shunga period that decorated the Great Stupa or relic mound of Bharut in Madhya Pradesh. Bharut style, though at times archaic and primitive in its conception, marks the beginnings of a tradition of Buddhist narrative relief and decoration of sacred buildings that continue for several centuries. Borobudur is a massive Buddhist monument in central Java, Indonesia. The Borobudur monument combines the symbolic forms of the stupa, the temple mountain, and the mandala. The monument was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1991. Indian iconography. Gandhara style of Buddhist virtual art that developed in what is now northwestern Pakistan and eastern Afghanistan between the 1st century BCE and the 7th century CE. The style, of Greco-Roman origin, seems to have flourished largely during the Kushana period and was contemporaneous with an important but dissimilar school of Kushana art at Mathura. Mathura was the first artistic center to produce devotional icons for all the three faiths, and thus laid the foundation of Indian iconography. Kushana coinage is famous for their varied and vast devices, especially on reverse side. The reverse of the Kushana coins depicted a multitude of deities borrowed from different religions. Modern historians have used exemplary characteristics to propose the Gupta period as a golden age, a time when Indian art and culture reached its apogee, creating a classical standard against which all Indian traditions can be compared. The Chola period is also remarkable for its sculptures and bronzes, which show a classical grace and grandeur and taste. The best example of this can be seen in the form of Nataraja, the divine dancer. Also, fine figures of Shiva in various forms accompanied by his consort Parvati and the other gods, demigods, and goddesses of the Shaivite pantheon, Vishnu and his consort Lakshmi, the Nayanmars and other Shaiva saints, and many more. Architecture and sculpture. In India, caves have been long regarded as sacred spaces and were enlarged or entirely man-made for use as temples and monasteries by Buddhist monks and ascetics. Indian rock-cut architecture is more varied and found in greater abundance than any other form of rock-cut architecture around the world. Interiors were usually carved out by starting at the roof of the planned space and then working downwards. This technique prevents stones from falling on workers below. The Ajanta caves are a string of 30 caves, which were built in two phases between the 2nd century BC and 6th century AD. They were used by Buddhist monks as prayer halls and monasteries. Declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO, it is also a protected monument under the Archaeological Survey of India. The Ajanta caves preserve some of the best masterpieces of Buddhist art in India. The Gupta dynasty, around 4th century in north-central India, saw the first purpose-built Hindu as well as Buddhist temples which evolved from the earlier tradition of rock-cut shrines. The earliest examples of religious architecture were cave temples which typically had exteriors decorated with relief sculpture and a single carved doorway. Inside the shrine, ritual sculptures were placed, such as a Shivalinga, and the walls were richly decorated with more carvings and showing scenes from mythology. Square building with flat roof and shallow pillared porch. The nucleus of the temple, the sanctum, that is Garbhagriha, with a single entrance and a porch, that is Mandapa, appears for the first time here. The temple architecture reached its peak by the 8th century CE. This is easily testified by the magnificent composition of the Kailasa Temple of Verul, one of the world's largest rock-cut temples from the past, the Kailasa Temple. This rock cave temple is believed to be the largest monolithic structure in the world. The styles of temple architecture are identified by the style of tower, that is Shikhara. In different parts of the country, distinct architectural style of temples was result of geographical, ethnic and historical diversities. Two broad orders of temples in the country are known as Nagara in the north and Dravida in the south. At times, Vesara style of temples is also found as an independent style created through the selective mixing of the Nagara and Dravida orders. Bhumeja is a variety of northern Indian Shikhara that is particularly popular in temples of western India, northern Deccan and the Malwa regions in India. It comprises a central Latina projection tapering towards the top on all the four faces. Hemadpanthi is an architectural style named after its founder Hemad Pant from the court of Yadavas of Devagiri. This building style was formed during the 13th century and incorporated locally available black stone and lime. Many temples in Maharashtra are built in this style. The walls of this temple are built in a star shape and in a zigzag design without any mortar by locking the stones by the technique of tenon and mortise joints. The Ambreshwar temple at Ambarnath near Mumbai, Kondeshwar temple at Sinnar near Nasik, on the Nagnath temple in the Hingoli district are a few examples of the Himadpanti style. So dear students, today we have learnt about visual arts, which covers the art of sculpting. We will further continue with this lesson in our next video. That's all for this class. Thanks for watching.